So some injuries are starting to hit a couple of position groups on the Chiefs roster, and with a very key player now unable to practice for roughly a week, it's safe to say things took a bit of an unexpected turn for the team, and that's why they even brought in additional help via a new signing today. This will give some other guys on the roster chances to make an impression, and in today's video I'll break all this down and share why it could be a bit of a positive once all is said and done. So I've got to talk about that, several key position battles going on right now, a certain player aiming to dominate this season, and even more takeaways from Day 8 of training camp. But first, how about those? Alright, so Day 8 of Chiefs training camp was a much cooler day and a much lighter practice. It was cloudy and in the 70s rather than 100 plus with humidity like yesterday. However, the weather did cause fans to have to leave pretty early on, which is a bummer for anybody who was out there to watch. Now, today was a bit of a shorter, lighter practice, not in full pads, because during training camp, padded practices may not be held on more than 3 days in a row. And from what I understand, you can only do 3 days of padded practices in a row like that 3 different times. And honestly, yesterday might have been the most difficult practice they'll go through all camp long. The on-field heat index got up to 120 degrees by the end of practice. That is unreal. Coach Spags shared today that during the long and hot practices, he uses guys like Drew Tranquill and Shamari Connor as barometers. They are in great shape, so if they look gassed out there, he will start to get a little concerned, and that happened yesterday, so he kept a close eye out there on everybody, but it was a good day of work overall. Shamari Connor said that those are times you've got to push through. These brutal camp practices do a lot for you because when you are late in games during the actual season, you can take your mindset back to those long camp practices and essentially draw from that well. Connor is a guy playing a lot in the slot still, with cornerback Christian Thornton out to injury. That's keeping McDuffie for the most part on the outside, and I don't think that's where his strength is at, talking about Shamari Connor, but the coaching staff seems to think he's the best option there that at least is not Trent McDuffie. Connor told the media that Spags has him playing multiple positions in the secondary though, and it's something he does enjoy. He's still trying to improve his game as he heads into year 3, and that's kind of the mindset of all these guys. You are always trying to get better. I mean, Spags even said today about Chris Jones that he's even trying to refine the small aspects of his game each and every practice, and that's DT1 in the entire NFL, and of course he's imparting that to other guys along the line. On the subject of Christian Thornton though, he's still on the PUP list, and Coach Spags noted that his absence has other corners out there getting a lot of reps, which is nice, but they're still going to have to find out a bit of what Thornton has because he's missed a lot of time. This is a tough system, especially as a newly signed free agent to just step into after being out for so long and instantly know what they're doing or have a big role. This is what Spags said, okay? Don't shoot the messenger. They are anxious to get him back, though, and get some more competition going in that room. They've been working Najee Johnson in a bit more with the first-team defense. Then, of course, there's still Jalen Watson. Josh Williams, for whatever reason, still seems buried on the depth chart, so we haven't seen much of him with the ones. Chris Roland Wallace has been stacking good days, albeit not much with the first-team defense either. He is another slot option if the coaching staff wants to give him a go with the first team, but I digress. Spags made it seem like they're still looking to see who shows the most consistency out there in the cornerback room, basically, aside from Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson. Well, the return of Thornton should help with that, but as Spags just explained, even when he does return, it might not be an overnight thing. Spags then complimented the rookie defensive end, Ashton Gelati, saying he's been great so far. They have him at just one spot for now as he learns the system, but eventually he'd like to be able to move him around a bit more, whether it's later this season or even next. He's a natural knee bender, a big guy with a lot of power from the hips down. He's working on the mental aspect of the game right now, as is basically every rookie out there. Charles Omenihu spoke with the media today and said that Ashton Gelati is a guy that's going to go hard, has a lot of power, and he can use that to his advantage as he works his way into the league. He added a compliment to Omar Norman Lott as well, saying he has a great use of hands, is very explosive, and learning techniques quickly. I didn't actually hear anything about Omar's ankle from practice yesterday or today, so I think he's on the up after going down earlier this week and getting that ankle looked at. He hasn't been 100% out there every rep since then, but it seems rather minor in the grand scheme of things since he hasn't missed any actual time and also didn't rest today, even though, yes, today was a much lighter practice. Now, before I get into those injuries, there are some notable ones to process through for sure. Both Spags and Omenihu weighed in on the scuffle between Gelati and Simmons, with Spags saying maybe there's a bit of a competitive rivalry going on, but they respect each other and he lets Andy handle all that stuff when it happens. Spags saw it happen though, and he did say Gelati was slow to react after getting punched because he was like, We can't do that, can we? Well, then, of course, they got after each other until it was quickly broken up. I just thought that was kind of funny. All in all, he didn't make the scuffle seem like a big deal because it wasn't, and Charles Omenihu thought the same. Guys want to compete out there, and sometimes it spews over, especially in that heat. Omenihu himself has gone up against Josh Simmons several times so far at training camp, and Charles thinks that Josh is a very good athlete. He knows his strengths, plays to them well, and has a bright future. Quote, "You can see why he was a first-round pick." Omenihu is one to watch out there for me this season along the line, as he's not only on a one-year prove-it deal, but he feels a lot better this season being further removed from that ACL repair. Omenihu said his consistency and explosiveness is back at full strength. He's feeling 100% for the first time since coming to KC a couple years ago and has high expectations for himself this year. Well, I do love to hear that because I think we're going to need him out there. FAU has been quiet so far at training camp, and it makes me a little nervous that we won't see that year 3 leap we were all hoping for. Obviously, it's still very early on in camp, and I would love to be wrong about FAU, but Omenihu will provide a definite boost for the D-line this season. Now, a guy providing a boost to the wide receiver room from a leadership standpoint is Juju Smith-Schuster. Juju said he takes that role very seriously, and sure, they have a lot of fun out there, but when it's time for business, they get to work. He likes to lead by example, but will also take the time to coach these guys through things that he's seeing and noticing, trying to draw out the best of everybody in that room. I found this encouraging to hear as well. He told the media he's feeling great this year physically. This whole offseason has been great for him to get fully healthy and stronger, and that's definitely proven to be true so far at camp. I think he stacked some pretty good days out there, and he will be a good safety valve for Mahomes in the middle of the field, especially during Rice's suspension. Another guy that could maybe see more opportunities during that time as well is the rookie Jalen Royals, a guy that Juju labeled a sponge as he soaks up all the knowledge he can get. He's very strong, quiet, but works hard, showing up every day to grind. I didn't see this yesterday, but Royals had a pretty twitchy 1v1 rep here against Jalen Watson. He clearly won on the inside move, but did sadly have a pretty tough drop. Not the end of the world. Receivers like Rashee Rice and even Jamar Chase had quote-unquote drop issues heading into their rookie campaigns, so it's not worth an overreaction on one rep, but I did like that route from Royals for sure. Another receiver all of Chiefs Kingdom has been keeping very close eyes on is Jawaan Thornton, the speedy man himself. Juju was actually teammates with him during his time in New England during the 2023 season, and he thinks Thornton has come a long way since then. He's a guy that can stretch the field and be physical. He can run for days and make plays, two things Mahomes loves to have in his receiver room. Overall, he's having a great camp, asking the right questions in the meeting room and showing up on the football field. It's honestly hard not to have this guy as a near roster lock at this point. He's been making the most of every opportunity given, play after play, it seems like, and his opportunities are only going to go up because Xavier Worthy is going to be missing some time. Before I get to that, I don't have a lot of practice takeaways from today because, again, it was a quicker, lighter practice and not even in full pads. It was a bit of a ramp down day as they get ready for a day off tomorrow before turning it back up all weekend. That's why one of the biggest things to talk through here is actually who did not practice today, because there were a couple notable new additions. Let's get through the not surprising ones first. Tight end Jake Brenningstool, hamstring, hasn't participated at all since the pads came on Sunday. Linebacker Jeffrey Bossa sprained his ankle this week, so he's resting up, and I hope it's not too serious. And then there are also several defensive backs not practicing as well right now. Darius Rush, Deion Bush, and Eric Scott Jr. all have hamstring strains that they're working through. And then again, cornerback Christian Fulton is still on the PUP list after getting an offseason knee cleanup back in the spring. It's getting a bit light in that DB room, that's for sure. Now, another player who had a knee procedure done in the offseason was right tackle Jawaan Taylor. And while he came off the PUP list this week, splitting reps with Jalen Moore for a couple days at first before getting a full workload yesterday, he actually did not practice today. The Chiefs org said he was out because he was nursing his knee. And I don't know if that means he's experiencing a setback or they just gave him some extra rest as they manage his workload. He's probably a bit sore from getting a full workload yesterday, but hopefully we get more clarity on Friday when the team returns to practice. And if Jawaan still is not out there, then I'll have some concerns about that knee, but for right now, I do not. With Jawaan out, Jalen Moore was the right tackle again today like he was in camp prior to Jawaan coming off the PUP. Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest also noted that Mike Caliendo rotated in at left guard with Kingsley. Hunter Norzad took some first team reps at center as well. It's good to get several guys work in with the first team because if somebody gets hurt in a game, it happens every single year in some capacity, whether it's a big or a small injury for the Chiefs this year. Please let it be all small injuries. But this is important in case one of those guys do end up having to go in there in a game. And this kind of looks like how the depth chart is shaping up at this point in time. Jalen Moore is the next man in at left or right tackle. Hunter Norzad is your backup center, but can also play guard if needed. Mike Caliendo is the next man up at left guard, maybe even right guard as well. And yes, Jalen Moore did work in some at left guard yesterday, but considering he's never played guard in his NFL or college career prior, I think that's more a use in case of emergency situation. All right, now if we look to the wide receiver room as far as players who didn't practice, here's where things get interesting because Hollywood Brown ankle, Sky Moore hamstring, and Xavier Worthy were all out. Hollywood had a minor ankle tweak yesterday from what's being reported. He could practice on Friday, but we'll see. Then Sky tweaked his hamstring late during practice as well. So both of these guys left early, and I wouldn't be completely surprised if we saw them out on Friday. Now, Worthy, on the other hand, was a little surprising. He's in concussion protocol, and that's why he was held out today. And I say it's surprising only because he initially cleared tests for a concussion in the medical tent after he slammed his head on the ground early on in practice while diving for a deep ball from Mahomes. After that, he returned and finished out practice, having a great practice overall, to be honest. Well, obviously, sometime after practice, either last night or this morning, he started experiencing symptoms of a concussion, which isn't that uncommon. Effects can kick in even 48 hours later or up to 48 hours later. So for now, he's out of practice and in the protocol. I'm going to assume he misses roughly a week of time, though it could be a little longer or a little less than that. Either way, it's only training camp, so the main goal here is get him right and don't rush him back out there. One positive out of all this, though, with Hollywood, Sky, and especially Worthy, is other receivers are going to get extra opportunities, and it'll be good to see who stands out among them during that span. Jawaan Thornton is one, sure, but he's already been standing out and stacking good days. They've also been working Jason Brownlee a bit in more with the first-team offense recently, so maybe we see a little bit more from him. And then Nate Taylor of ESPN shared that when Hollywood Brown left yesterday, Nico Remigio was the guy running all over the place. So we might see even more out of him as well with the starters. He's been working in more with the second-team offense so far at camp, but I'm not that concerned about it right now. Remigio knows the system. He's been here for several years and can play any wide receiver position out there. Meanwhile, guys like Brownlee and Thornton are much newer in comparison, so the coaching staff could want to see more of what those guys have over Nico because they already know. Now, to be clear, I'd love to see more from Nico on offense, not making excuses for him, but there are only so many snaps on offense for the 6th or 7th wide receiver on the roster, and right now, Nico is a lock to me as the team's punt returner. He will also be one of their 2 kick returners as well. But punt returns are the most important to me because we need reliability back there over everything. Sky Moore isn't that, and then Brashard Smith, he is working in on punts. He's pretty new to it, didn't really return in college. He does have the speed, but he's still got to work on other aspects, including ball security, so we'll see how that shapes up as time goes on. And then with all the injuries piling up between Sky, Hollywood, and then Worthy in the protocol, the Chiefs thought they needed some additional wide receiver help, so following a successful tryout, a successful workout today, the Chiefs are signing wide receiver Kwame Lassiter II. He played college ball with the Jayhawks. He racked up 1,500 yards on 148 receptions again in those 5 seasons. He does have some punt and kick return experience as well. Not the most athletic guy, 4.54 out of 10 relative athletic score, but you see that green here with the 20-yard split. Not bad at all. But again, you have all these injuries, you need the help, and so you brought in Kwame Lassiter, slot guy, totaling 257 yards and a touchdown in the UFL this past season. After his stint with the Jayhawks, by the way, he went undrafted and was with the Bengals for a couple of years, basically on their practice squad, doesn't have any real NFL production. And then after the USFL, he now finds himself in Kansas City. An uphill battle to say the least, but hey, you've got a guy who went to KU now in the room with the Kansas City Chiefs, and I am rooting for him. He's probably a camp body, but hey, you need the help if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, and I'm sure he's really going to enjoy this experience. And in order to bring somebody on, you have to let somebody go, and the Chiefs opted to actually end their punter battle to make room for Kwame Lassiter II. They waived punter Eddie Chaplitsky, which means Matt Araiza won the punting job for the 2nd year in a row and is looking to build upon a First year with Kansas City, that did struggle in the back half of the season, especially landing punts inside the 20. And for what it's worth, aside from trying out Kwame Lassiter and signing him, they had another receiver, but then 4 other cornerbacks work out as well today. So it seems like they are at least on the prowl for some more help in the secondary as well. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on the addition of Kwame Lassiter II. Let me know your thoughts also on the wide receiver room and how you see it playing out at this point in time. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?